This morning's sermon text is Genesis, chapter 2, verses 15 through 17, and chapter 3, verses 1 through 21. Listen now for the word of the Lord. The Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to till it and keep it. And the Lord God commanded the man, "You may freely eat of every tree of the garden, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat of it you shall die." Now the serpent was more crafty than any other wild animal that the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, "Did God say, 'You shall not eat from any tree in the garden'?" The woman said to the serpent, "We may eat of the fruit of the trees in the garden, but God said, 'You shall not eat of the fruit of the tree that is in the middle of the garden, nor shall you touch it, or you shall die.' But the serpent said to the woman, 'You shall not die, for God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil.' So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was to be desired to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate. And she also gave some to her husband, who was with her, and he ate. Then the eyes of both were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made loincloths for themselves. They heard the sound of the Lord God walking in the garden at the time of the evening breeze. And the man and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God among the trees of the garden. But the Lord God called to the man and said to him, 'Where are you?' He said, 'I heard the sound of you in the garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked, and I hid myself.' He said, 'Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree of which I commanded you not to eat?' The man said, 'The woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me fruit from the tree, and I ate.' Then the Lord God said to the woman, 'What is this that you have done?' The woman said, 'The serpent tricked me, and I ate.' To the woman he said, 'I will greatly increase your pangs in childbearing. In pain you shall bring forth children. Yet your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you.' And to the man he said, 'Because you have listened to the voice of your wife, and have eaten of the tree about which I commanded you, you shall not eat of it. Cursed is the ground because of you. In toil you shall eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles it shall bring forth for you, and you shall eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your face you shall eat bread until you return to the ground. For out of it you are taken. You are dust, and to dust you shall return.' The man named his wife Eve, because she was the mother of all living. And the Lord God made garments of skins for the man and for his wife, and clothed them." Human life is plagued by a sense that things aren't exactly as they should be. People spend their lives trying to figure out what exactly it is that isn't right and how they can fix it. Religions and philosophies have given all kinds of answers and various different theories about how to make things right. Let go of the self, become less attached to the world, or become more attached to the world. Correct the political and economic system so that the right people will be in charge to make good decisions. Let the masses become better educated or more obedient or something. On, and yet, after so many thousands of years, something is still out of place. Christians throughout 2,000 years of church history have been especially aware that things aren't as they should be. So much attention has been focused in the church on naming sin, assigning blame, and prescribing different ways to fix it, that we've collectively developed a reputation for having a guilt complex. The Judeo-Christian quest to figure out where and why we as a race went wrong has traditionally started with this story in the Garden of Eden at the beginning of human history. The standard interpretation of this story is pretty familiar to all of you, I think. God created the first man and woman and put them in the Garden of Eden, which was a sort of paradise for them. They had work to do, but it wasn't apparently too hard. They existed in a state of innocence at that point and were given free rein to do basically what they wanted, as long as they didn't eat from that one tree of the knowledge of good and evil. They were given a strict warning: if they ever ate from that one tree, they'd die. Then Satan shows up. Eve takes a bite of the apple and gives the rest of it to Adam, and both get kicked out of Eden. It was either Adam's fault or the woman's that we've all been sinners ever since. Except that's not exactly what the story actually says. The potential for sin was there to begin with, or else the sin wouldn't have been committed. It isn't really sin itself that we see beginning in this story, but the awareness of it and our futile attempts and inability, despite ourselves, to resist temptation. And yet, as we begin Lent, we also see God freely intervening to take care of us when we can't take care of ourselves, despite our repeated disobedience. The story begins apparently in a state of childlike innocence. Adam and Eve, it's implied, don't really have that awareness of good and evil yet. They just have the commandment from God to till the earth, coexist with creation, and not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. That's God's only commandment, that they not eat from that tree. The significance of that tree has to be thought about closely. It's not really the tree of sin. It's the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The fruit grants awareness of good and evil. Not sin, necessarily, but the maturity to recognize it and to be able to discern what's right from what's wrong. It's implied that Adam and Eve, in their innocence, aren't really having to worry about that yet.